Rev up your engines!
Well, if you notice, the price of used cars is going up yet again, as is the price of new cars. So much for the government stopping hyperinflation. They're just fanning the flames by spending money on all kinds of crap. Now, there's all kinds of things involved in this. There is sort of a deficit in the used car market. There aren't enough cars in the used car market, especially for the used car dealers, right? So now they got to fight amongst themselves. There's less cars to buy. The prices just naturally get a little bit higher. Interestingly enough, one of the reasons fueling this is that people aren't getting rid of their old cars. So the used car market is shrinking. Well, to me, that's a good thing. People are like, I don't like the price of these new cars. It's too high. I'm going to keep my old one. Well, guess what? Then the old ones don't go on the market, and the used car market doesn't have enough cars. To me, it's actually a good sign. People aren't just paying too much for the new cars, and then people are selling their used cars. Or as they get a new car, they trade it in, right? To me, it shows the whole thing is kind of drying up. The average American's keeping their cars longer and longer. For example, in the last 10 years, Americans are keeping their cars 60% longer than they did 10 years ago. Many people have cars that are well over 10 years old. They're all whining about, oh, the cars cost too much. The used cars cost too much. The new cars cost, guess what? You don't have to buy a car if your car runs okay. And I think what's really happening is a lot of people are saying, they're charging too much, I'm keeping my old car. And if you look at logical car buyers, you're buying Hondas, Toyotas, cars that last a long time, you can get away with that. The idea when I was a kid in the 60s, planned obsolescence, the average American kept their car 4 or 5 years, right? And they were made so they fell apart, and then you more or less had to because they were falling apart. Well, guess what? Now they last longer. People don't have to. And they can talk all they want about supply chain, about chips and all that. To me, it's like people are, I'm not going to buy these things. They're asking too much money for it. So, of course, the used car market, the price goes up because there aren't enough used cars because people aren't selling theirs. They're holding on. To me, this is a good thing, not a bad thing. If your car's still running good, believe me, listen to me, keep it. Don't waste your money on overpriced used cars or overpriced new cars. If people just stop buying them, the price has to go down. If nobody buys it, the price has to come down regardless. The only way you can sell a used car is if somebody buys it. And if nobody buys it, it's not worth anything. It's only worth whatever people pay. So if we start paying less and don't even go out and buy them, too bad. Vote with your money. Don't spend it. And guess what? You're going to have to lower their prices because they can say whatever they want. If people aren't buying, the list price means nothing. Well, Hyundai actually has come up with something interesting. It's not the car itself, but it is a new type of spark plug. It is a spark plug that has dual electrodes in it so it can fire twice. Now, over the past, there's a lot of companies that made engines that had dual spark plug setups. 2 spark plugs for each cylinder, and they'd have to have 2 ignition coils and stuff to fire. Well, this is just 1 spark plug, but it can fire twice. You can see on the picture, it's got 2 electrodes. The only difference is instead of having 1 wire go to the spark plug, there's 2 wires. One's positive, one's negative, so it can fire twice. It's a better way to extract energy from ignition coils to burn the fuel in the engine more efficiently. And it's just 1 spark plug that screws in the same hole. It just has 2 electrodes built inside it. When the spark plugs fire, there's a positive fire, and then there's a negative spike too. And these are using both positive and negative to fire the spark, to make the engines run more efficiently. You get more complete combustion of the air-fuel mixture, so they have more power. They also pollute less. Pretty interesting idea. It can turn regular engines into ultra-low polluting engines. Looks like Hyundai may have invented something interesting. Not the whole car. They have a lot of problems building those correctly, but a new type of spark plug that can keep combustion engines running more into the future and running more efficiently. AMP 2006 says, I have water leaking in my exhaust pipe on my 2019 Camry LE with 60,000 miles on it. I start it up when it's cold water comes out. Help. You probably don't need any help. That's pretty much normal. If you ever look at the back of most cars, the muffler's in the back. Look at the back and you'll see on the bottom there's a hole on the bottom of the muffler. Well, that is a water drain hole. It's a tiny little hole. It's made that way because any exhaust system gets hot, right? You turn it off. Hot metal will absorb water vapor. So just overnight sitting, that hot metal is going to absorb water vapor. And when you start the car, it's going to blow it out. That's why the drain hole's there. If you didn't have a drain hole in the muffler, the water would stay in the muffler. It would rust it out too fast, right? And the other thing is, when you burn gasoline, which is just carbon and hydrogen, right? Gasoline is CH, a weird configuration. It's carbon and hydrogen. When you burn them in Earth's atmosphere, one of the byproducts is water vapor. So your car naturally produces water vapor anyway. So you see water coming out of your exhaust. You probably just never noticed it before, but it's just an after effect of burning gasoline in Earth's atmosphere, and hot metal will absorb water, and it'll build up some water inside the exhaust. When you start it first thing in the morning, the water starts dripping out. That's totally normal. If you never noticed it before, look at all the other cars. You'll see they do the same thing. Ross Wise said, "My heater doesn't blow hot. I got a Ford Excursion 2001. The heat doesn't blow hot. It's not clogged. It's not cold. It's kind of lukewarm. The AC is freezing cold. Coolant levels are good, and I have no gurgling." You got an old vehicle. It's a Ford Excursion with 273,000 miles. Odds are your heater core is just corroded inside. If you don't have any air in the system and you get lukewarm air, it usually means that your heater core is just corroded. Now understand, the heater cores are made out of metal. The metal will corrode over time. As it corrodes, it no longer dissipates the heat from the hot water. The heat doesn't get transferred from the hot water to the hot metal heater core and then through the air blowing through it. Of course, you want to see if there's any restriction there, like Kleenexes that got stuck in your intake so the air isn't blowing as hard. But if you turn it on and that air is blowing as fast as ever, but it isn't hot, odds are your heater core is just worn out. Now, you can try to flush it out. There are various flushes, but from my experience at that age, a lot of times the heater cores, they're just, odds are it's just wearing out. The heater core itself is wearing out, and it's an expensive job. So you might try flushing it out. I got a video on how to flush a heater core. Sometimes it can help somewhat. Well, it looks like Amazon's drone business isn't doing too hot. Well, who didn't expect this? Delivering things with drones is kind of a stupid idea to begin with. Too much science fiction, right? Now, there's only 2 locations they're even trying it out. The one in California only has 2 existing customers. I mean... Come on now. The whole idea of these things flying around delivering stuff is just plain stupid. Now, they have to prove that the drones work and have these 2 test areas. So it's not working out too well. They have to prove that they can fly over people in towns without creating a mess, right? Now, they're only testing them in College Station, Texas, and Lockford, California, which is a population of about 3,500 people south of Sacramento. Now, the whole thing, of course, is hamstrung by FAA regulations. Said they can't fly over people or over roads. Over 1,400 customers have signed up, but so far it can only deliver to a couple of people because of all these regulations. I mean, these things flying overhead, all the problems they could create, You can't have drones flying around with airplanes up in the air and hitting power wires. Who knows what mess would come of that? I mean, come on now. It's just too much science fiction here. Drive around in the trucks and deliver stuff, right? We don't need them flying through the air, right? It's coming to fruition that it's not that easy to do. They're having a hard time even trying to find places that'll let them test it out. Well, Amazon's starting out with those electric delivery vans. Well, here's a guy that sent a very interesting email to me about how they're not working out all that well. Ted J. Rifkin Sr. sent me this thing. The drivers for Amazon in my neighborhood said the electric vans are total crap. Sensors are going out all the time. They can only go about 100 miles on a charge. They said they will take the older gas versions any day they can when they have a choice. Wait till the summer when temperatures hit 115 here in Phoenix and they have to turn the AC on. They'll go even less further. What a joke. Keep on rocking. You can only go 100 miles. Now, everybody wants their packages, right? And so time is of essence for people. Well, if the trucks can only go 100 miles and they got to recharge, guess what? Your packages aren't going to be coming overnight anymore. You'll be waiting for something to charge up. And I'm sure these are new vehicles. They'll start breaking down too. And then, well, sorry, your package isn't coming because the Amazon truck broke down on the way. Instead of getting the baloney PR that the government throws down about how electricity is going to save save us. We're going to be driving electric cars. You see those electric semis in California delivering Lay's potato chips? You see them breaking down? Send me pictures. Send me information so I can share with everybody and see what's actually going on, and not the myth of what the government wants us to believe. And it's trying to get us to buy all these electric vehicles that really won't pan out all that well until they get the technology set up correctly, which obviously isn't the case yet. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.